Atlantic Ocean, March 15, 1943. The gray waters stretch endlessly in every direction, hiding death beneath the surface. Somewhere in these depths, over 400 German U-boats prowl like mechanical sharks, the largest submarine fleet ever assembled. Their mission is simple: strangle the Allied supply lines and win the war through starvation. But today, something impossible cuts through these hostile waters. The USS Gerald R. Ford, a nuclear-powered supercarrier from 2024, has materialized in the middle of the Atlantic's most dangerous hunting ground. So what happens when 100,000 tons of modern American naval power faces off against the entire Kriegsmarine submarine force? Can one ship, no matter how advanced, survive against hundreds of torpedoes lurking in the darkness? Or will the wolf packs finally claim their ultimate prize? The Gerald R. Ford isn't just any carrier. She's a floating fortress that represents 8 decades of technological evolution beyond anything the 1940s could imagine. Stretching over 1,100 feet from bow to stern, this nuclear leviathan displaces more water than 3 World War II battleships combined. 2. A-1B nuclear reactors generate enough power to light up a small city while pushing 100,000 tons through the waves at over 30 knots. But the real terror lies on her flight deck and in her belly. 90 aircraft call this ship home. F-35 Sea Lightning fighters equipped with stealth technology and missiles that can strike targets 100 miles away. E-2D Hawkeye radar planes that can see through storms and darkness like they don't exist, tracking hundreds of contacts simultaneously across thousands of square miles. EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft capable of jamming enemy communications and frying primitive electronics from impossible distances. And MH-60R Seahawk helicopters loaded with sonobuoys and torpedoes designed specifically to hunt submarines. The carrier's defensive systems make her nearly untouchable. Rolling airframe missiles sit ready to intercept incoming threats, while close-in weapon systems track targets with computer precision. Her hull is compartmentalized into thousands of sections, designed to survive multiple torpedo hits that would sink any 1940s warship. Most importantly, she carries enough fuel and supplies to operate independently for months without resupply. But Admiral Carl Dunit's U-boat fleet represents the apex of 1940s submarine warfare. Over 400 boats spread across the Atlantic like a steel net, each one a precision instrument of maritime destruction. Type 7 and Type 9 submarines armed with pattern-running torpedoes and commanded by veterans who've been perfecting their craft since the war began. These aren't rookie crews. They're the survivors, the hunters who've already sent millions of tons of Allied shipping to the bottom. The German submarines operate in coordinated wolf packs, sharing intelligence through radio networks that stretch across the ocean. When one boat spots a target, others converge from multiple directions, creating killing fields where escape becomes impossible. Their torpedoes are masterworks of engineering, capable of running silent and deep before exploding with enough force to break a ship's back. Each U-boat carries between 12 and 22 torpedoes, meaning the combined fleet possesses over 7,000 ship-killing weapons. The odds seem impossible. One carrier against an entire submarine fleet that controls thousands of square miles of ocean. In 1943, submarine detection relies on primitive sonar and visual spotting. A surfaced U-boat can disappear in seconds, diving to depths where conventional weapons can't reach. The Germans have turned stealth into an art form, approaching targets underwater before unleashing torpedo spreads that arrive without warning. March 16th, 0400 hours. The Ford's advanced radar systems detect the first wolf pack 200 miles to the northeast. 7 U-boats running on the surface, charging their batteries while racing to intercept what their primitive hydrophones have identified as a massive target. In 1943, this would be the perfect setup for an ambush. The submarines would submerge at dawn, spread into attack formation, and wait for their prey to sail into the trap. But they're not hunting a 1943 convoy. The first E-2D Hawkeye launches from the Ford's deck, its massive radar dome spinning as it climbs to 25,000 feet. From this altitude, the aircraft can see everything within a 400-mile radius, tracking surface contacts and even detecting the electromagnetic signatures of submerged submarines running their electric motors. Within minutes, the tactical picture becomes crystal clear. The Ford's Combat Information Center lights up with contacts as dozens of U-boats are identified and plotted. Some are running submerged, others charging batteries on the surface, and several are already maneuvering into attack positions. In World War II, this level of situational awareness would be considered supernatural. The carrier begins launching aircraft. F-35C fighters armed with precision-guided bombs streak towards surface contacts, while MH-60R helicopters deploy sonobuoys in coordinated patterns, creating an underwater detection grid that no 1940s submarine can evade. The hunt is about to begin. But this time, the hunters have become the hunted. The first U-boat to die doesn't even know it's under attack. U-247, commanded by Kapitän Lieutenant Heinrich Miller, surfaces 180 miles northeast of the Ford to charge batteries and receive radio updates from BDU headquarters. The crew thinks they're invisible in the pre-dawn darkness, just another shadow on an endless ocean. They're wrong. From 15,000 feet above, an F-35C locks onto the submarine's heat signature through thermal imaging that can spot a cigarette lighter from 5 miles away. The pilot doesn't need to see the target with his eyes. His helmet display overlays targeting data directly onto his vision, while the aircraft's computer calculates wind speed, target movement, and optimal release parameters faster than any human mind could process. The 500-pound GPS-guided bomb falls through the night sky with mechanical precision. U-247's lookouts never see it coming. The explosion tears the submarine in half, sending 44 men to the bottom in seconds. But this is just the opening move in a chess game where one side can see the entire board while the other plays blindfolded. 200 miles to the south, Kapitän Zur See Wilhelm Richter commands a wolf pack of 12 boats spread across a 50-mile front. These are veteran crews who've survived the North Atlantic's killing fields for over 2 years. They know every trick, every tactic that keeps submarines alive in hostile waters. When U-247's radio goes silent, Richter orders an emergency dive. Something is hunting them, and in submarine warfare, the first rule is simple. What you can't see will kill you. The MH-60R Seahawks arrive like mechanical angels of death. Each helicopter drops a pattern of sonobuoys that transform the ocean into a giant listening post. These aren't the primitive hydrophones of 1943. Modern sonobuoys can detect submarine propeller noise from 30 miles away, classify the exact type of vessel, and transmit real-time data back to the carrier. The ocean becomes transparent. U-523 tries to run silent at 200 feet, her crew barely breathing, as they creep through the water at 2 knots. In 1943, this would make them virtually undetectable. But the sonobuoys track every turn of their propeller, every creak of their hull under pressure. When the MH-60R's torpedo drops into the water, it doesn't just hunt randomly. It knows exactly where to look. The Mark 54 torpedo is a guided missile that swims. Its sonar locks onto U-523's acoustic signature and adjusts course with computer precision, ignoring every countermeasure the German crew attempts. The warhead detonates directly under the submarine's engine room, crushing the pressure hull like an empty beer can. Another 44 men vanish into the depths. But the wolf pack isn't finished. Richter orders his remaining boats to converge on the carrier's position, using a tactic that's worked against countless convoys. If they can get close enough to launch a coordinated torpedo spread, even the most advanced ship can be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. 10 submarines racing through the depths toward one target, each carrying enough firepower to sink a battleship. The Ford's passive sonar arrays detect them coming from 50 miles away. These aren't the crude listening devices of World War II. Modern sonar can identify individual submarines by their unique acoustic signatures, track multiple contacts simultaneously, and predict their courses with mathematical precision. The carrier's Combat Information Center becomes a real-time display of underwater movement that would seem like magic to 1943 eyes. So, could the entire German U-boat fleet sink a modern supercarrier? The answer reveals the brutal reality of technological evolution. 8 decades of advancement transforms hunters into prey, turning the ocean's most feared predators into obsolete relics. The Ford would systematically dismantle Dönitz's wolf packs before they could fire a single torpedo, rewriting the Battle of the Atlantic in a matter of hours.